I'm very privileged that you've come all the way down here today, and we're standing underneath some tires because we're trying to find a quiet area. You tell me about your grandmother, about sitting with your grandmother and talking about nature. I was curious about that, some of those memories.
Being here in this beautiful bike repair shop and coffee place quite reminded me of just having weekly coffee and cake with my very political grandma in rural East Germany when I grew up. And we just chatted about anything that came to mind, the news, nature, always with homemade cake of any kind, homemade coffee as well. And it was just a super safe, open environment where I could share any thoughts.
What was your favorite cake that your grandma made?
The classic for sure was Quarkkuchen.
Oh!
Quark, I know it's a term in English as well, but it's very different. It's basically cheesecake. But, for some funny reasons, it's a very delicious, very sweet, 3-layered cake that goes perfect with dipping it into coffee. Most people would not like to do that, but you don't have to chew much. I like it. It helps freeing up some brain space for other issues. So that's still my favorite. My mom still makes it a lot.
That sounds very, very good. I mean, I do like this very scientific thing you just said, that if you're chewing on a tough cake, then you don't have enough brain space for thinking. I'm not sure that's 100% biologically true, but we'll go with it.
I've researched this sufficiently, and I know for a good reason this is why the Neanderthals became extinct eventually.
Okay.
They chew too much.
So, which is why we should be more vegan? Because there's less chewing on meat and protein. Yeah. Okay. Well, folks, you've heard it here first. The reason why we're going vegan is that we shouldn't chew so much.
Yeah, and there's fantastic cake out there, vegan, non-vegan, but in most cases meat-free, and I think this helps a lot already.
I mean, there are some people that have like a 3-layer meat cake. Yeah, like a steak, whipped cream, is
bloody as it has to be.
Of course. You mix it in with the whipped cream. But so, Max, one of the first things that we spoke about this afternoon was football.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, we're in Newcastle, and there is a very exciting game yesterday. There's something strange about it. You had a very good connection between football, 4-4 draws, and climate and sustainability, also as well as a story from your childhood. I guess it's when you have a 0-0 draw in a football game and you have a 4-4 draw, at the end of the day, in the league table, just 1 point each. But when you're a football writer, a journalist, trying to write down the story of this match the next day, you don't have very much to write about the 0-0 draw. It's pretty boring. You can just about fill maybe one paragraph with a guy who got injured or whatever. But when you have a 4-4 draw, you can talk about it for an entire double spread of a page, and that's storytelling.
It is storytelling.
Yeah.
And maybe you wonder as well, if you watch YouTube summaries of football matches, they're always like 1 minute long if it's a 0-0 or 4-4. And it's amazing to see how people can tell stories and how they compress stories into 1 minute with 8 goals. How is that possible? I wonder. And in the climate space, I think we have to decompress. We have to tell more, Don't give it just 1 minute, maybe give it 10 minutes. But in an exciting way that people like to listen to it. And that they tell their own story. Most of us have been affected by one kind of climatic event recently. If it's a flood, if it's a heat wave in London, 40 degrees, unprecedented. But we know it will happen again. We have to be ready for that. And I think it should start and it should end with the storytelling and what we make of it.
Let's tell more good stories. Let's have more 4-4 draws.
Yeah, for sure. In any league. Maybe 8-8. I don't mind. But give me some more goals and something to be excited about for the future. I mean, football and climate stuff is probably it's a connection we don't hear too often. If anything, we see the Africa Cup being sponsored by Total Energies, the absolute opposite of climate action. But there is some movement, and I think, like most sports people, these are role models for current generations, for future generations, the little boys and girls playing today. And I happen to be privileged enough to play with one of these footballers. Not because I was that good, let's be honest here. I had no talent whatsoever. I was always in defense or goalie. That speaks. Says a lot.
Me too.
And yeah, he's currently captain of VfL Wolfsburg, a famous German football team in the Bundesliga. And Wolfsburg happens to be the richest city in Germany. And why is that? Well, it's thanks to Volkswagen, VW, the big car maker, who has been sponsoring them for decades, I believe, right? And whenever I come back to our hometown, it's called Strehla in rural East Germany. He has his house there, his family lives there. There always seems to be a new car in the car park, even though his family of 4 hasn't been growing that much recently. But there's always a new car. And we know footballers earn a lot, but it makes me wonder, what do they do with that money? And how else could they be role models?
We were talking about something which I thought was really, really interesting. About narratives and story when it comes to climate work, right? And the climate future, a sustainable future. And you said that you think, for you, it's not actually the fact that there are climate stories, it's the lack of climate storytelling.
Absolutely true. Of course, you can buy a ton of books about the climate, the nature, the environment, about the future. But I find it quite puzzling that it's so often not being discussed just over Kaffee and Kuchen on a Sunday with a friend, with your parents, with whomever. But it's this abstract, othered thing, that sometimes pops up in politics, maybe every 4 years when we have to vote. Not because we want to, but just, one of the parties likes the topic, the others usually don't. And it's just so far away from being important on an everyday level, right? Why is it? And I think about these things on a daily basis. I'm getting paid for that as a researcher.
I believe that part of it is not having these powerful, positive stories that are going to show us, that are going to guide us towards a better future. I think you said, you don't like the idea of net zero. You obviously like the idea of net zero, but you don't think it goes far enough. And what I heard from that was that's when people hear net zero, they think, this is something which is stopping me. It's a negative thing. It's bringing things in. Whereas we need to share this beautiful, positive story, which is going to get into people's minds and guide us forward. What story would you like to tell your future kids?
I like the question, and I think my short answer would be that I would like to tell my children, my future children, how we, my generation, managed to be the first sustainable generation across the planet.
I'm looking forward to this bedtime story, this bedtime climate story.
I feel like my job is so serious with thinking about the future, about the climate crisis all day long, that you have to be an optimistic person, both outraged and optimistic, and also deliver funny messages to not just speak to people's minds. This is my daytime job, but especially to speak to their hearts, because this is how most people remember things, how they remember you as a person, how they remember your face. They don't remember the facts you tell them, but the way you tell them and how you make them feel.
So tell me something silly.
Something silly? Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, I tried to evade the question. I really like to speak in baby speak, since I have this 10-month-old nephew, and it's just
nice.
It's just so funny and relaxing as well. To stop thinking in adult language, whatever it is, and just try to be a baby or children and try to see the world through their eyes and imitate noises they make. I could do something right now. I just find it so hilarious.
Yes, please.
Like something like that, not with that deep a voice, but this is how he tries to express something that we adults don't understand. But this makes perfect sense in a growing baby brain. And maybe this is one of the things you should try to do more often. To see the world through children's eyes. If we have children or not, it makes life much easier, much more enjoyable, I think.
I think that's a wonderful note for us to end off on.
Thank you, Ronni.
Thank you, Max.
And that was The World is Storytelling with me, Ronni. To support The World is Storytelling, make sure to subscribe, rate, follow the podcast, buy the book, and get in touch. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.